YouTube. Today, whilst we meander our way to work on a slightly chillier day than it has been for the last few days, I just wanted to go back to something that I touched on in my first video, which is the value of Raptor Paint Jobs. Now, I promise that the videos will get better, they will get more interesting, and we will do more workshop related videos. Right now I'm still getting comfortable with the camera, still getting comfortable with the editing, still using basic equipment, so this is what we've got for now. So the value of Raptor Paint Jobs, it's always been marketed as a DIY product, which, as I said before, is fair enough, but any professional service can be done by an individual, by a non-professional, if they so wish. You can purchase materials, you can carry out works for yourself, at home, even for your friends if you like. And you don't have to go to a professional, you don't have to pay high street prices for things. But if you do, and you do inquire and you do approach a business, a company, then the price is going to be more. You're not just paying for raw materials, you're not using your own time, it's not your own labour, you're paying somebody else. And someone like me, like any other body shop, any other business out there, they have to pay bills, they have to pay rent, rates, electricity, water, insurance, liability, all of those things that we need, all of those things that are required of us to carry out our jobs. And those things don't come cheap. Rent, it doesn't come cheap. When I moved workshops, I'd moved half an hour away from home. The last workshop was only 5 minutes from home. But the only way to get the size of the workshop, the facility that I wanted, was to go further afield. So I'm paying a fair, if not cheap, rent, considering the size of the workshop. Electricity, that's gone up and up and up. My average bill's probably around £300 a month, which is cheaper than a lot of other body shops. I don't run a heated booth, I don't have ambient temperature, we work through the cold, work through the heat, so those costs have to be covered. We have to cover our costs with the work that we do. That's being in business. No business out there goes out to run at a loss. We're going to provide cheap products, cheap services, so everybody gets value for money, and we will pay the rent and the bills and make a loss just because we want to make sure everybody else is okay, everybody else keeps their money in their pocket. I am definitely not in the business of ripping anybody off. I don't want to fleece anybody. I want to stay, and I've always wanted to stay, reasonably priced. I want to give value for money, and I feel that I do. When I first started, I started out quite cheap, very cheap in fact. I didn't know how to price the jobs. I was basing it on material costs and a few days labour, and I just wasn't aware of what went into these jobs when doing it for a customer. I can spend a couple of weeks, a few weekends prepping my own vehicles, painting my own vehicles, and the time doesn't seem to matter. But when you're doing it for someone else, and obviously you want to do the best job possible, you've got to spend time on it. So I started off trying to turn around vehicles in around 2 weeks, and it was doable, it was possible, and I did. But I was working 12, 14, 15 hours a day, if not longer. I was having to spray of an evening due to the estate that I was working on. It was a proviso that I couldn't spray in the daytime. Fair enough. So I'd be pulling double shifts on the days that I was painting. When I moved over to the new shop, I said to myself, I'm not doing that. So obviously I can spray in the daytime, I can pace the work better, and now I do more reasonable hours. I might do half the hours that I did before, but I'm there every day. I'm there 7 days a week. I might get a day, maybe 2 days off a month at most, but generally I'm there 7 days a week. And the main reason is to get the jobs done and done right. You know, I spend the first week to 2 weeks stripping, prepping, and then there's probably another few days of body working, final prepping, etc. And then the paint jobs, and they're never straightforward, which is, you know, what I want. I want interesting paint jobs. You know, I'm not there to do run-of-the-mill commercial paint jobs. I'm doing custom paint jobs. So the paint job may span over 3, 4, 5 days, maybe longer, depending on the final after effects, the final finish. So I'm into nearly 4 weeks. Then we've got to rebuild. It's got to sit for a few days in the dry. So we're up to, you know, a full month. So if I'm working on that job for a full month, that job, in essence, should be covering all the bills, all the costs, and it should be paying me a wage. Now, currently, at the value that I'm at with the paint jobs, it barely covers those costs and gives me a little bit of money. I'm talking a little bit. I'm not talking a full wage, not by any means. And when I'm doing say a slightly smaller job than average, most of my jobs are big vans, medium wheelbase high tops, long wheelbase high tops, bigger trucks, etc. If I'm doing a smaller van, then obviously I try to value that job accordingly, and at that point it might literally just cover the costs. So you might think, well, that job's going to take less time, it's smaller, but that's not always the case. Some of these jobs, you know, bodywork wise, we may need to do more work. There may be welding required, there may be panels replacing, that sort of thing, and it's time consuming. So even if it's a smaller vehicle, that job may take just as much time as a larger vehicle. So then I'm in a position where I've covered my costs barely, and I've got nothing for me. I've worked 29, 30, 31 days of that month, and I don't actually get anything out of it. I barely get anything to put into the household, and then I'm wondering, hold on, what am I working for? Why am I doing this? Now, the main reason I'm doing this is because I love it. I enjoy my job. I love what I do, and I'm still building something. The reason I call the business Legacy Customs is because I want this to be my legacy. I want this to be something that I can hand over to my kids, whether they want to go into the custom car industry or not. You know, there's going to be something there for them. I don't own a house, I don't have savings, I don't have a pension. I've got what I work for, and that's it. So I'm trying to build this business, and I'm 4 years in, and I should be a lot further along than I am. But the problem is the value of Raptor Paint Jobs. Now, an equivalent custom shop, or even a standard body shop, they would be charging pretty much double of what I charge. A full custom paint body shop, they're probably charging triple. And fair play to them, they're putting the hours in, they're putting the work in, and they're producing the results. So am I. My prep process is the same as theirs. I may not have to finish to the same standard as them. I don't have to get it to a 600 or an 800 finish because Raptor is thicker, it is a textured coating, so I don't need the panels perfect, but they have to be prepped correctly. The dents have to be taken out, the rust has to be dealt with. The bodies are big, it takes time, so I'm doing as much, if not more than some, to prep these vehicles. And then the product cost. Raptor costs more than a base coat and clear coat combination. You know, I can buy base coat and clear coat for less than £500 to paint a long wheelbase van, whereas my material costs with Raptor, we're probably talking more in the region of £800–900. And then obviously you've got your epoxy primers, you've got the consumables, your panel wipes, your thinners, all your sanding gear. You know, I'm sanding a big van, I could go through easily a box of sanding discs, whereas somebody else might fly across a van or a car in 2 or 3 discs. You know, I'm using 50. And then there's the fillers and all the rest of it, because the vehicles that I'm working on, you know, they are older vans, crafters and sprinters, notorious for rust issues. A lot of them have been used as commercial vehicles because that's what they were built for. So, you know, they've got dents, they've got scrapes, they've got damage. All of this needs to be taken care of because I don't want to be painting over dents. I don't want my final product to be spoiled by bad bodywork. So I do everything I can in my power to get those bodies straight, get those bodies looking good before the paint goes on, which is the same as what a decent body shop would do. So I'm putting in the same hours, I'm putting in the same effort, and the results at the end of it, I feel, are definitely on a par with any other body shop. I've been doing this 4 years pretty much non-stop, and I would say that my standards continue to go up. I always strive for the best quality job I can do. I don't half-arse anything, and I feel that, you know, I should be rewarded for that, just like anybody else. But the problem is, because it's still marketed as a DIY product, and there are a lot of people out there that still think that a DIY product can be applied or done for them professionally at a DIY price, it means I can't charge what I need to charge, what I should charge. The other thing is, there are other people out there also doing a similar job to me. They are applying Raptor, they are painting vans, same as me, but they're doing it out of sheds and out of their mate's barn, and their costs aren't quite as high as mine. They're probably a quarter of mine at best, and they're still charging ridiculously low prices. So you as a consumer, you're obviously going to shop around and look around, and you'll get price from me, you'll get price from other people, Louis at Atlas Paint and Body. You've got Spray Tech up in Newark. You've got a good few places around the UK that are doing this and doing it really well. But then you've got the people that aren't doing it quite as well, and they're not charging what they should be charging. So that keeps the value down, because again, as a consumer, when you're shopping around, you get a price from me at £6,000, and then you get a price from Fred in a Shed at £2,500. You know, it's gonna sway you. You're gonna think, hold on, why is he charging £3,500 more than this guy over here? You know, am I going to get £3,500 more value in the job? Now, I can't guarantee that. This guy, Fred in the shed, he may be amazing, but he's not helping the industry. He might be lining his own pocket for very little cost and outlay. He may be doing an appalling job. He may be just quick prep, quick paint, get what you get for your money, which is fine because we get that in all industries. You know, you've got your scale of quality and value in all industries, but in my industry, in what I'm doing, I'm being held down by that. I'm being held down by public and popular opinion and the people that are doing cheap jobs. You know, in the normal body shop industry, they have the same problem. You know, you've got Fred in a shed down the road knocking out resprays at 2-3 grand, whereas the body shops, they're charging 9, 10, 12 grand. And they're, you know, well within their rights to do that because that's the value in the job. I should be charging £10,000-12,000 plus for high top, long wheelbase vehicles, full prep, strip, body working, inside and out, recolor, epoxy primer, all of the things I should be doing and are expected in a quality job, I'm doing. And so that's what I should be charging, but I can't, because when people come around and they're looking for prices and they ask my price, I give them my cheap price, £6,000, whatever it may be, and then they go and get a quote half of that price. You know, I don't stand a chance. You know, I'm very lucky that over the last 4 years I haven't actually advertised the business, I haven't pushed the business, I haven't promoted things maybe the way I should, and the work has come to me through referral and recommendation. I do post my jobs on my Facebook page, on the Legacy Customs Facebook page, and I do post on the Raptor Paint group, which I don't promote my business on there. I put my finished vehicles, my finished jobs on there, and the main reason for that is so people can ask me questions if they want to do it themselves. How did I achieve this? How did I do that? They can see the process. I always put the start to finish process on all of my posts, so they can go onto my page, see the whole process. And so I don't actually advertise, I don't go looking for the work, and when people are putting posts up and saying who can do this and who can give me a quote, I don't chase those people. If they come to me, then that's fantastic. I'll talk to them, I'll give them my costs, and I'll explain what they get for that money. But a lot of the time they'll be like, oh, I'll get back to you, and they'll go somewhere else, which is fine. You know, if somebody doesn't have that kind of figure in their mind already, if they're not thinking this job's going to be £5,000 to £10,000 plus, then obviously that's going to be a difficult job for me, because they're going to want it cheap and they're going to want it good, which I said before, it don't happen. If you want it cheap and good, it's going to take months. I'll fit it in between other jobs and it'll take months. You know, if you want it good, then it's going to cost. If you want it in a short time frame, it's going to cost. You know, we've got to do things the right way, otherwise I'm wasting my time, and that is how I feel at the moment. And this isn't, I'm not trying to get anybody in particular. I appreciate all of my customers, every one of them has been fantastic, and from the early days, you guys, you got great prices. You really got great prices, and the prices have increased over the last 4 years. You know, they've quadrupled, yet, you know, I'm still poor. I'm still empty pockets, working nearly 30 days a month just to pay the bills, because I have hopes and dreams that this business and this workshop will produce more things, more services, more interesting builds. But the Raptor work is my bread and butter. It's what pays the bills. So I need to keep this going, and I want to keep this going, but somehow the industry has got to catch up with the value of the jobs. People have got to stop keeping that value down. Other painters, people's expectations from a consumer side, you know, if you want a van repainted, you have to be looking at £5,000 to £10,000 plus, whether it's a VW T4, whether it's a VW Crafter. It can be done cheap, and you can do it cheap yourself, and I have no problem with that. And if you want to Raptor it, you go onto the UK Raptor Paint Group. I'll tell you exactly how to do it. I will give you everything that you need to do the job. But if you want to go to a body shop, if you want a 2K direct gloss, if you want a base coat and clear job, or if you want a Raptor job, then you've got to be looking at £5,000, £10,000, £15,000. I know people painting classic cars, £20,000 to £30,000, and it's a tiny car. It's a quarter of the job of a Crafter or a Sprinter. But that's the value. It holds a value. So we need to get that value into our industry, into the Raptor Paint Jobs, and so that, you know, the likes of myself and Louis, Alan up at Newark, people like them who are putting in the work and, you know, producing the results, can actually take home a wage for the effort that they're putting in. Otherwise, we'll have to leave it to the Fred in the shed. We'll have to leave it to those people in the barn. They can have the industry, they can have the Raptor Paint Jobs, because we can't do this for free. It would be great. I'd love to do it all for free. I'd love to not have to worry about the bills. I'd love to paint your van for nothing. No problem. But I can't. I've got bills, I've got a family. I'd like to take them away on holiday every year. I'd like to do more for my family, which I cannot right now. I cannot do anything, because all I'm doing is working to pay the bills. So we need to get this value, we need to get this ideal of Raptor Paint Jobs to a better standard, to a higher standard. People need to understand that there is value in these jobs. It's not a DIY job that you're paying for, it's a professional paint job. So I'm going to stop ranting now. I'm here at work. I've got a Mercedes Vito to finish, so I will catch you on the next one. Thanks for listening.